线上的每个人还是有找一个国际驾照，不信对，下一个去考试。我们线上申的话，30，你现在吗？正好我们的照片我才合照，还得要那每天2寸乘2寸的方照，正好我有。大导报2天盘，您听我一句，大导
So I shared this
大导也是一个人，
to the students.
其实还可以。
Oh,
真的
I saw it
真的人都不学
I need to record my
Okay.
recording and record.
Okay.
Yeah.
So later on, the students who watch the
Okay.
想拍头啊，
Okay. Can I minimize it for now?
yes,
So we don't, yeah, so it's not a distraction, you know.
这样想，我认你条。如果你们要看那个是，如果你们想度假舒服一点，把你柯南问题。偶尔，如果你们想去看我的星星的话
Which one should I do?
当然肯定要看星星。
Presentation, or just go straight
看
to
到我
the.
这么高，你得
So I need to do something again? I don't need to. I just need to go down.
啊。如果你们不上那个山顶，那底下看晚上看星星，那你们就随便。要住舒服一点的，我俩在科纳去所有地方都要远，住西边那个城，比较远。东边就行。西洛你开到那个火山旁边，为什么？所以没有。那个山路很难开，那个山路非常难开，特别是晚上。我那天又下雨，又是大雨，晚上来我还会下雨。
为什么？
大车基本上就是3、4个层，那就是真的4个是标的，不是手动，自动的，就自动的。
At the beginning, I don't know. I'm actually now saying, but now I
就2辆车。那你们就，那小车俩便宜，那你上天文台，反正一
I
天。
remember student, a lot of the say to, don't change your plates.
right. Yeah, they charge.
Yeah, they remember you by your.
Exactly.
而且开过去都是那个挺方便。
Yeah. You're teaching for 2-3 sections.
No. 几号走啊？
Also, my map
6月。
goes. I see you put your name tag. It will be good to put your name tag in front of you because we have a guest speaker today. Thank you.
那出来就最好回来。行吧。
Okay, I see the time is 10 o'clock. We're going to get started. As I said, I need to take a participation tag as usual
那还可以。
for section 1. And for section 2, we're not going to be able to make it. We're going to be recording this class and they can play back the recording. For those who are going to make to the class, this is a positive surprise. I'm going to give participation credit. Okay, but this is a bonus exposed. Okay, don't tell anybody. Okay, so now I'm going to start. Jay, Sebastian, Lauren, Yupeng. Prasanna.
Yes.
Pace. Megan? Jeremiah?
Here.
Tin Rui? Laura? Bao? Anna? Jessica?
Yeah.
Minh Hong?
Here.
Hào Trấn?
Yeah.
Jin Cheng? Hứa? Green? Esmeralda? Jared? Delia? Yu? Yu Rong?
Which?
Yeah, Ruth. Megan. Chen. Rooney. Yu Chen. Yan Chen. Look. Jin Yue. Yu Xin. Zi Jing. Yu Yi. Arthur. Okay, second section, who are here? Okay. Only one get the bonus? Okay. Right. So today we're having our honored guest speaker Purnima Srinivasan. Sorry, I'm not very good pronouncing Indian names. She has been having a fantastic career. She started out being as an auditor at PwC, and later on, she pursued her master's degree, pursued her MBA degree, and then became a consultant. When did you start the blockchain project?
Just been about a year and.
Okay, so this is her innovative project she has been working on. And today she's going to focus on the discussion on blockchain technologies and particularly how this is going to have impact on the auditing industry. Okay. So this today, as we know that the second section students will not be able to come to the class due to the conflicts of time. So they're going to watch the recording. I'm recording the class now. Okay, just I want to make sure that you are aware of this. And don't do anything that you don't want them to hear or see. Okay. So now the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you all for being here, actually. And I'm really grateful that Dr. Martin invited me to come and address you and do a little session with you all for blockchain. I know that she introduced me and said a little bit about my career. But what's important for me also is to share a little bit of who I am from the point of view of why am I even doing this. I'm an accountant and I went through accounting school and training to be an accountant. And blockchain is a little bit different, isn't it? So I just want to talk a little bit about myself and why I got into this. I have been a traditional auditor, financial accounting. I worked in the Big Four and then the Big Five. And slowly over the years, I got interested in technology as I was almost thrust into doing technology audits, like including cybersecurity. And maybe some of you are familiar with the term internal controls if you have already done some auditing. And I got into that field and then I became a consultant. In that process, I did a deep dive into technology. Another factor that contributed is because I was a stay-at-home mom for several years. And when I got back, I realized that the world had changed so much. And any of you will feel that, have that experience if you step away for a couple of years into a different field or doing something else. So I got more and more interested to learn more. That became my thing. And therefore, that motivated me to make that a deep dive into technology. One of the things that I saw is that many people have an idea that technology and the onset of technology is pretty harmful for society. You mostly see that. So I wanted to explore and see in what ways we can also benefit. This was just something I was doing in my head. So I got interested particularly in blockchain because I felt there is a potential to do something that's really good and will improve our lives. One of the things I do believe in is once it's out there, is like letting the genie out of the bottle. You can't put it back. So the only thing we can do, the only choice we have is how are we going to use technologies such as blockchain and even AI to our benefit, to our collective benefit, not just for me to become a millionaire or billionaire, but how to spread that goodness in the society as well. Those are my motivations. Let me start by asking you all, how many of you have heard of blockchain technology? Okay, there's a few. Don't have the class. No, don't worry, I'm not going to spring any questions on you. So if you have heard of it, it's just for me to know how many of you know about it. How many of you have heard of cryptocurrencies? Okay, about the same, or maybe just at least a couple more. So blockchain and cryptocurrencies are very linked. One is the technology, and cryptocurrency is an application of that. Okay, very good. You're all master students, so I'm sure that you're, kind of quite engaged in understanding the accounting world at least, and the business world to a large extent. But another thing that's useful for me to know is how many of you have actually worked in either accounting or auditing? Okay. Maybe 1/3 of the class. Okay, great. So I just want to be careful not to use any real accounting terminology or as we go through the whole session to talk about or assign you some kind of questions that will deal too much in accounting. Okay, very good. One of the things I want to say for the session, it's a long session, so I do encourage you to participate. There will be some points in which I will stop and ask you for, examples maybe, or to think of some creative ideas as to how we can implement something as we go through the concepts. Okay? And of course, Dr. Martin is here, and surely I have talked to her about this. I don't think you're going to get any negative points. There's no wrong answers. So you just feel free to just speak out when you have any ideas. Okay? All good? And if you have any questions, please interrupt me. It's a long session, so I don't want to wait till the end for questions. Feel free to ask me any questions as we go through the whole thing. Okay, great. So what is fascinating about blockchain is you can tell it like a story that really captivates the imagination. There's a lot of mystery and intrigue. underworld crime, and everything else that you can think of. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Has anyone heard about this? May have been when you were well before the time that you were adults. It must have all happened when you were quite small. If you don't, here's how it all began. The whole story of blockchain began with a white paper. How much more interesting can it get? A published white paper by a very mysterious individual or group of individuals called Satoshi Nakamoto. That person or entity published a paper called Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. That was the beginning of this very fascinating story. It's only about 7 or 8 pages. I would certainly recommend that you get it and just browse through it. There's some parts of it that might be heavy reading, but it's interesting. And as you can tell from the title, it talks about a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. What is a peer-to-peer system? Anyone has any idea? What do you think it could be? Yeah, go ahead. Tubelile?
It's called Tuba.
Tuba, okay.
Yes. I think it's peer-to-peer is a transaction from one person to another without involving central banks sending cash.
Without a what?
Without involving central banks.
Yes. Okay, very good. Did someone else have another answer? Yeah, we always interact with each other, right? So if I buy anything from you, it's there. So I came from the airport, I came by Uber, and I interacted with the driver. How is that different? I need an intermediary such as Uber. Suppose you go out for dinner with your friends and you pay them through Venmo. Do you think that's a peer-to-peer interaction? Okay. Are you Jared? Okay, why not?
I forgot my name tag,
Okay,
sorry.
that's all right.
Because you're involving like a third party like Venmo, I think. So
Exactly.
I was gonna say like a peer-to-peer seems like anything that's kind of deregulated, like mainly the government, but then also I guess any third party platform, like anything where you just have, I guess sort of like cash is a good example, like
Yes.
giving cash one to another, but.
Yes, that's a very good. Actually, that word is really good because as you can see, it says electronic cash system and it's going straight. It's as good as me giving one of you a few dollar notes. There's just no one else involved. Except, of course, there is the issue that even when we have dollar notes, there is a bank or a Federal Reserve or something there that has to back all this. So there is nearly always a third party, except in the case of this paper, which suggested that you can have a peer-to-peer electronic cash system that doesn't involve anybody else at all. And that's why it really created waves. So what was so unique about that paper? One of the big things it did, as some of you already identified, is it's decentralized. And the idea of trustless digital currency means that you don't have to have a third party creating that issue of trust for you. So you don't need some bank or Venmo or Uber or somebody verifying the transaction or the validity of that person, the client, the customer, and saying, oh, this can be trusted. You don't have anything at all in between. So it's trustless because we trust in the system itself. It's a digital currency. And it's completely decentralized. So that was quite revolutionary because there was nothing like it. I mean, there were years of people searching to get such a system, but it was not possible because there was one problem with the digital payments is if you created something and you gave it to somebody, how do you know it has not been used? That is the double spending problem. So the problem with almost anything that goes digitally is it can be duplicated. You can create a beautiful copy. There are people who do forgeries for a living, and you can create everything, including the US currency that can be duplicated, right? So the double spending problem was resolved through something called proof of work. That's just a very advanced cryptography method whereby we have to do a big computation, a very complicated computation in order to prove the authenticity. That's just basically what it is. And the proof of work is quite an advanced cryptography. I mean, you'll almost have to do a course in cryptography to really get to it. And that's what, if you've heard the term miners, have you heard of people mining for Bitcoins? Yeah, the people who get rich by mining for Bitcoins, that's what they do, is to identify that hash or the algorithm that creates the proof of work. It's also consensus based, so that's another check on it as well. So everybody who's on that same network has to also agree that not only did you do the calculation and come to the point where it's verified, but we all agree that this is correct. So it has to meet the 51% threshold. So with the proof of work, it created a system where between that and having the consensus mechanism, you could rely on the fact that anybody who gave you those digital payments through Bitcoin was okay. And that was how Bitcoin started. So what about that? What's the big deal of that? Again, the story is quite intriguing because something called Silk Road opened up. Has anyone even remotely heard of that? The Silk Road? Okay. Have you? Okay. What do you know about it? I mean, there's a little hint there, but what do you know about
I
it?
might have watched it somewhere on one of the series. Something to do with trade between China and if I'm not
Yeah, that is the
mistaken.
original Silk Road. Very good. Yes. Yes. But this was the digital Silk Road that actually tried to take that idea of Silk Road, which was a huge ancient marketplace of trade all the way from China across through the Asian continent as well. But this Silk Road that was which was digital on the web was different. So what it did was, there was a person called Ross Ulbricht who created the Silk Road. And he started this on the dark web, which means your IP address was hidden. Maybe some of you know it because sometimes when you travel, you know your IP address changes. If you use Netflix and go to another country, it won't work unless you go and hide your IP address. So you know that your IP address identifies your location and who you are, perhaps. At least somebody can get to you eventually, like maybe the FBI or the government can get to you. But what the Silk Road did was create everything on the deep web where all the IP addresses were hidden. So people started to trade. And as you can see, right from the top, it was mostly illegal things. They have the whole section where you could trade drugs, several other services that you could buy, including forgeries if you wanted something duplicated, passports, identity, anything, you could search for that kind of a service on the Silk Road and pay in Bitcoins. So there was absolutely no trace when people were trading on the Silk Road. You didn't know who you were trading with because most of them had acronyms or hidden names. They had no IP addresses and no way to trace it. So this was something that the government got whiff of, and they knew about it. Silk Road started in 2011, or it was functioning highly, in an extensive way from 2011. And people were aware of this because everybody knew you could go there for all kinds of unsavory and illegal and criminal things. And finally, the government got wind of it and the FBI shut down the whole website in 2013. And this happened, finally. They met their, justice served its purpose. And you can't go and search for that today. I mean, you can, but you'll just see that the site has been seized and nothing could be done. So Ross Ulbricht, who, by the way, operated under the name of the Dread Pirate Roberts, you can tell it was almost comical the way this was all carried out. He called himself the Dread Pirate Roberts, like something between a Disney cartoon and a mythical figure. And he was sentenced to prison until he was pardoned last year by President Trump. But he did a little bit of prison time, maybe 8-9 years of that.
I have a question.
Yes.
This is Claude. I'm on Zoom.
Oh, you're on
I
Zoom.
ju-
Okay.
Yes, I just wanted to know why the site was shut down. Was it that nefarious activities were happening or trades being done on the digital Silk Road?
Yeah. Sorry, I missed the second part of your question. Was it because nefarious activities were happening? Yes, for sure.
Yes.
What's the other one?
No, I'll just that's fine. That was the main question.
Yes. Okay. So there were nefarious activities. There were also legitimate activities happening, but the whole thing was shut down, especially because they did not follow any of the rules of commerce. So there were, there are some rules on how you can trade, transparency, and how you advertise, how you market, everything. So, and as you can see in Europe, this really caught the attention because the European Union saw that there were many things that they were violating, including cross-border transactions. So if the government cannot even track what's happening across the border and who's selling what, who's making money, you cannot, at a minimum, you don't know where there is a taxation implication and who's making the revenue or anything. So because this also violated general commerce rules, it was shut down. It was seized and it was shut down. Of course, in addition to all the massive nefarious activities. Is that it? Any other question?
No, thank you so much. All right.
Sure. So don't search for this too much because then you will be inundated with all kinds of offers from websites. Certainly look it up and see what it is. But if you decide to go on the dark web, you will start getting a whole lot of ads and suggestions for all kinds of things which you may not want to partake in. So this was a bad experience and gave the whole blockchain technology itself a bad name. Since Bitcoin was the one that was used throughout this whole episode of the Silk Road, it gave that a bad name. So it took some time before people started taking something like the blockchain seriously. But there were a lot of people who had already been working on the idea of digital currency and blockchain and how to make a peer-to-peer transaction possible without the double spending problem. So that was a fantastic outcome, even though the initial story of Silk Road was not that great. Okay. So now I just want to move into a few ideas of how blockchain itself works. This is just a general idea of how blockchain will work. There are many types of blockchain, and we will come to that, but I just wanted to go over how that will work. Any questions so far?
I've got a question, but it's
Yes.
probably coming, you probably address it later. I am more interested in how or if the blockchain technology can be applied outside currency, say outside Bitcoin. Yeah. Are there any other applications, non-monetary applications that it can be applied to?
Perfect. I'm so glad you asked that question because that's the part I really want to talk about. I do love to talk about all the applications of blockchain outside of the technology. Outside of the Bitcoin technology alone or cryptocurrency of any sort. because there's a lot more to it. And there is also a kind of bad name associated with a lot of cryptocurrencies just because they do create a little bit of turmoil in the markets, and people who don't know much about it have been investing and getting burnt. So that has created some pushback. A lot of people think, oh, it's a bad thing. So I'm glad you asked that question because I think it's great for us to think about all the positive aspects of that as well. Okay, as the name suggests, blockchain is made up of blocks. That's not a surprise. One way to think of it is that it is like a cell in a spreadsheet. All of you are familiar with spreadsheets, right? Yes? Yes, we are. Yes, yes. Accountants, all accountants, aspiring accountants should be like that level of experts in spreadsheets. We live on that. I would often have 3 monitors while I was at work, and all of them would have different spreadsheets. And, we do a lot of at least drag and drop copy and do so many things that would be like magic almost to anyone else. So yes, we know that. So what do you think is there in a cell? What is in one cell?
Information.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Information.
Perfect. Information.
Data.
It has data, which can be information. It has formula. It can contain any kind of information, right? So in a similar way, a block in a blockchain also has that. Except that unlike a cell in a spreadsheet, this has far more dimensions. It's not what we would call flat in computer terminology, like just 2-dimensional. You just have information. It doesn't go back and forth in that way. So yes, it certainly has data. And in a blockchain, that data can be quite voluminous. It can be very complex. It can contain data with all sorts of formula and detailed information about contracts and everything else. Okay, this is where blockchain is going to be different from just any kind of a database or a spreadsheet, because it can contain an asset. Okay? And that's different from just writing information about an asset. Sure, you can have a spreadsheet in which you put a list of information about assets. I own this property, I have so much cash, or your company or your wherever you work, they're going to have all those. This can contain an asset itself. And I'll just come to that by giving an example. But since we are all accountants here in this room, who is able to tell me what an asset is, just the way you understand? It doesn't matter if it doesn't meet any technical definition. What is an asset? Yeah, hi. Welcome. Yeah, that's
Something that
okay.
holds value.
Something that
that's
holds-
value.
Yeah, something that holds value. Value to yourself or to others?
Anybody.
Anybody, right? Yeah, that's your child's picture or your loved one's picture holds value to you, but may not be so much to the others. Right? But unless that person is a celebrity, then it holds value. There's a little more than just value, because we have to be a little more rigorous about how we define value. What kind of value? That's what I'm looking for. Yes?
An economic entity that can be transformed into currency. An economic.
No, economic is right. It should have economic value, something that can have, that's true.
Economic entity, that's what I'd probably say.
Okay, good. If I add economic to the value, it has economic value, it has some economic benefit to someone, would be a good definition of an asset. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess in like accounting terminology, you think of it like cash. So it's like assets are things that can or have the ability to provide cash to the corporation or like the entity, like if needed. So like you have obviously an asset of cash, or you have like accounts receivable, or you have some kind of like property. They all are either cash or they can be turned.
Yeah, that's a good addition. Another attribute too. So it's something that can provide future benefits. If it's a fixed property, yeah, you're buying it so that it will generate profit at some time, or it can be sold for you to convert it into immediate economic benefit, but still it should have some future benefit. So that's great. Yes, so this can contain an asset by itself. I'm going to use an example from now on just to explain this. And this is something I had referred to in my TED talk as well. The one that I had shared, I think, with, or a friend had shared with Dr. Martin. And I think she has shared that with you. So this, if, for those of you who have watched it, this may be a bit of a duplication. But think about a ticket to a Taylor Swift concert. If you have that in your hand, do you think it's an asset? So assume you're not a fan of Taylor Swift. Do you still think it's an asset? Yeah, why?
I think because it can generate revenue for me, I can sell that to someone and have, and the value they put to that ticket is what I will get.
Absolutely. So even if I hate Taylor Swift, but someone says, hey, you can easily go there and I'm going to let you in into a secret. Go to that kiosk and buy a Taylor Swift concert ticket. I will, because I can sell it. I know there are so many fans out there who will buy it for twice the price or more than what I paid. So it is an asset because it represents what we talked about, the future economic value for something, and you are the owner of it. So once you have the ownership, it's an asset. So the thing about blockchain is you can put that or your right to that ownership as an asset in the block itself. So if you're an owner of a ticket or something else that gives you a right to any future benefit, whether for yourself or someone else, as long as it can be expressed in economic terms, not merely just a sentiment for yourself, but for maybe many others, that'll be an asset. Then the other thing about blockchain is it's programmable. This again is a wonderful feature which you won't find on an average database. Yeah, sure, we think that Excel has, self-executing, you can run macros and it does some amount of programming, but not in the way that blockchain can do, which can self-execute. It's almost like putting in a robot that sits inside the blocks and it can go and do stuff. For example, as you said, we talked about selling the Taylor Swift concert ticket, right? So if I want to just sell it, I can leave some complex instructions in the block to say, oh, go and find somebody who will pay so much money, but wait till the last day in case somebody else wants to pay more than that. Or I can run an auction. I can actually run an auction with an online bid, and I can embed that as part of the program. So you can think of it as a little mini robot sitting there and going and doing your bidding. Go and find this person, or I just want to give it away, say. I want to give it away to somebody who can sing all the songs of Taylor Swift. I feel generous. So, and that person has to be exactly born in August, which is my birth month. I can do all of those things, which you can't do in a general, database. So you can do that and program it in that fashion. And guess what? This will be done fully automatically, no manual intervention at all. So I don't even have to interact with the person who's buying my ticket. I can just program it so that once the criteria are met, the payment is done and it just comes to me directly. As long as I'm using, of course, the blockchain and an electronic form of payment. Okay. So now that we do that, so what? Like, what's the next step? How do we know that somebody else doesn't come and change it? Maybe somebody else wants that ticket, so they come and get into it. So what is another unique feature of blockchain is the second I put in the data and the asset or whatever else I want to put in it and write the program, it gets locked down. I cannot make any changes. Once I press that enter button or the equivalent of that, it gets locked down. I can make no further changes at all. So the first time that I bought the Taylor Swift concert ticket or I got it somehow, I put it in the blockchain and it's sitting there and it gets immediately locked down. So maybe you're thinking, oh, so how am I going to sell it if I can't unlock it? Right? That's a natural question that will arise. So how am I going to sell it if it cannot change ownership from me to the person I want to sell it? So here's what happens. It gets locked down and we can make no further changes to this block, but we can create a new block which has all the updated information. Okay. So the old information always stays. Yes,
Just a quick question.
sure.
So kind of similar, what I've seen with like programmatic like advertising, there's like a specific like ledger where you store each of the transactions that have like been made within blockchain.
Yeah.
And where is that ledger placed exactly?
So the blockchain is a ledger. Yeah, maybe I should have used that too, because that is an accounting term that you all understand. So if you think of a ledger, an old-fashioned ledger, this is exactly what it is.
Right.
So the block itself is the ledger. The blockchain is the ledger system.
And then the participants like in the chain, similar like programmatic like advertising, they have like cryptographic like identities. Like
Yes.
as you mentioned earlier, like you can't like basically if one website bids like I know in an advertise like one website bids like on another like website for their inventory, it's hidden. Same thing with Bitcoin. If like one person buys Bitcoin, kind of what you mentioned earlier, it's like hidden. Sorry, these are just I don't know.
Yeah.
Questions.
So there is very complex cryptography behind it to make sure that only that one person. So if 2-3 people bid, you cannot sell it to 2-3 people. The
Okay.
same thing. Because of that, because there is a unique identifier which authorizes just you to it. And I'm just going to come to the cryptography bit in just a second.
Does
But
it
that's-
find the best like seller? Like specifically, is it like the programmatic advertising where it finds like the best bid, best seller, and sells it to them audit like programmatically like that, or is it? I know it has to be one seller and obviously one buyer.
Yeah, so I think
So
what you're
I know
talking
it's-
about is the auction.
Yeah.
Yeah, so auction bidding is a whole program by itself, and of course, there's a lot of technique to that. But what happens in blockchain is up to you.
Okay.
I may as well mention this now. I was going to refer to smart contracts in a little bit, but that's what you can put in here. We call it smart contracts on a blockchain where you can write a contract that you want, where it goes and sits in the blockchain and it executes in that manner. And you can decide to do it in any way. You can sell it to the highest bidder, but as I said, if I want to give it away, I can do that too. You can also sell it to somebody who has never been to a concert before, or you can put any kinds of riders there that you want. And the thing about smart contracts is because they're self-executing, they're great. Think about something, okay, I'm going to give you a sort of outlandish example. Maybe somebody has a business as a personal trainer. And the contract we have is, oh, the second you either lose this much weight or gain this much muscle or whatever it is that you want to measure, say you have that person, your client, step on a scale, and it says every 5 pounds that person loses, you automatically get payment. There's just no question of dealing with them, chasing them, or anything. So it can be used in any number of situations, or you have somebody mow the lawn or cut the hedge. The second they send a picture of it being uploaded, like this is the picture, this is how I've done it, you get paid. That's
Other
a smart
companies that
contract.
verify basically the payment, kind of like with the ad tech, where companies verify and they measure to see. They also measure how many impressions, like maybe the blockchain or gets.
You're
specifically.
talking about advertisers.
Yeah, but I'm
specifically?
trying to
Yeah.
tie it to blockchain.
Yeah.
But there's
So if you're running an advertising business, that's a really good example of it. Or say in real estate or advertising, and you want so many people to come and take a look at the house or take a look at your ad, and they have a tracking mechanism, you can certainly write a contract which will say, oh, as long as there have been so many, eyeball tracking, as long as you met that metric, I will pay you. Here is a progress payment. By the way, the same concept is used a lot for royalty payments. So when people use it, you can write a smart contract that will be put into the blockchain and they will get paid automatically.
no, that actually really helps.
Yeah, that's why people are so much into using blockchain for things like that. Where you don't have to track manually, especially if you have high volume of transactions.
Because I'm guessing blockchain, it's more like on the exchange, it's more like transaction volume, whereas like for I guess more like the fintech companies, it's like average, like I'm guessing processing volume, and the fintech companies like a MasterCard takes like a take rate, whereas like what would blockchain, like what would a Bitcoin exchange like take as their like payment instead of like a take rate?
So because the Bitcoin is actually, it doesn't have to be associated with the currency at all, right?
Okay.
So you don't have to measure any of those things except what you want to in that case. So there's no
So you set the take rate, like you basically what you say it is, that's what they pay for on the market. There's no like, but what would like a Binance or like what would like a company like that, like what would they take? How are they making money from the deal?
They have a transaction fee.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
So all of them, and I'll come to crypto in a bit, but that's what they do. So the cryptocurrency people, they have a transaction fee, and that's how they get paid. Pretty much like trading on any of the stocks or financial assets, they get paid that way. Okay? Yeah, good questions. Please keep them coming if you have any. So this is how it gets updated and sent to everybody. So what is this key? We mentioned that, but this is the part that I just want to kind of give you a glimpse of. Again, the advanced cryptography is something that's beyond, it's like it's a technology-oriented way to open this blockchain. I mean, not open the blockchain, but to make updates on it. It's an encryption method, and I think it's quite enough for us to just accept that that's what it is. It allows you to get in and make those changes by creating a new block. Again, the old one can never be rewritten, so you're creating a new block. And there are many ways in which you can keep this key. Some of you may have heard of certain high-profile losses of Bitcoin because someone lost the key. Did any of you hear of that? There's been some reports in the newspaper of people losing millions of dollars because they lost their key. Of course, today there is more advanced ways to store even those keys. And certainly you can generate a QR code today that will allow you to, just scan, and you don't have to memorize this long key, which looks like this, like starting with that 9913. And, it can be insane. So once you get into a network for blockchain, you're given a key. Say, even if you buy a cryptocurrency, it's not just for cryptocurrency, it's for anything in blockchain. You have a key, and you can scan, and you can get access to your private key. And from there, you can manage all your digital assets. Cryptocurrency, as you can see here, is just one of the digital assets. We talked about the assets, right? There are stable coins, and stable coins are actually tokens on a blockchain that are linked maybe to a currency or something else, or some other form of real asset that you can see. I'll come to the utility tokens later, or any of the digital assets. Anyone heard about NFTs? Okay. Do you want to tell me, Jeremiah?
Yeah, so NFTs, from what I know, is like digital art or some type of digital asset that you can trade between people.
Yes, okay. It is art. And what it is it's put on a blockchain. So people have access to, they have ownership of it. They can admire it as long as they want digitally. And people have paid millions for, I think I'm forgetting the name of that cat. There's a very famous cat that someone bid 40 million for it. Maybe it's like the Doja cat or, that colorful cat. So which was quite shocking. Did you have something else, Jared?
No, he
On the
pretty much said-
NFT? Yeah.
I just remember like in undergrad, like the Bored Ape was like blowing up, like a collection of NFTs. I was an undergrad.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can take anything and make it into an NFT, actually. That's really what that is. I'm going to touch upon some of these in a little while. I just wanted to give the idea of what the key does and how it will allow you to access the blockchain. So there is a public key, which is visible to other people. And then there is a private key, which you alone have. So you can go and unlock that and get access to the blockchain system so that you can create a new block. That's all it allows you to do. Again, not changing the old one. So this is how it might work. So if I want to say sell my ticket for 2 crypto, so Alpha tells the program that's residing in the blockchain to go sell the ticket, and Beta has a public key, so he or she can see that ticket. That's a public key. But then it's only when you pay your 2 crypto that you are given your private key. And then you can access it and take ownership. So the new block immediately gets created, which says, okay, now this ticket, this Taylor Swift concert ticket belongs to Beta. And that's done through the program. Any questions on that? Is that confusing or is that clear enough? Okay, and the thing about the key is how is this kept secure? The public key and the private key are very different, but there is a link. There's a unique relationship that links them both so that you can't use the same private key for, oh, I'm sorry, there's a typo that I didn't see. The betas, that should be private key. Yeah, so that's Beta's private key there. So they're linked mathematically, like it might take a few digits from there, hash it, and then would give the Beta's private key, but that's really it. You cannot use that key for anything else. Suppose there is more than one ticket, you can't use it to go and unlock another ticket for yourself. Okay, once this is done, this gets distributed to everybody on that same network. Say again, going back to the idea of the concert, you don't even need something like, say, Eventbrite or any other concert portal, because it gets distributed to everybody who has ever been interested or sought access, been given authorized access to the a whole network of concert tickets. You don't need a third-party portal. So everybody gets access to it as long as you're on the computer. In each of those is called a node. That's what those do. They can get copies of the whole transaction from start to finish. So you're sitting at your computer and you're in this network of people buying concert tickets. If you bid for it, whether you get it or not, everybody in the system gets notified of the entire list of transactions, including the fact that Alpha sold his ticket to Beta. So this creates a consensus mechanism. If somebody wants to protest, say, you think you bought the ticket and you don't think it's Beta's, then you can say, hey, this is mine. And so there has to be a consensus there that everybody is aware as to who has bought the ticket. So there will be no dispute at all. Again, that's how you avoid that same idea of double spending problem. You can't sell the same ticket to two people. That's what we talked about in the beginning, right? Is that clear? So that's the difference in blockchain between the centralized system and a decentralized system. As you can see, the second picture is the one with the peer-to-peer transactions. And in the first one, you need a node, whether it's for payment, whether it's for organizing exchange of transactions, whatever you want to buy or sell has to go through somebody, and then the payment has to go through somebody, whether it's a credit card or Venmo or almost any of the other types of digital payments. Today, we still have to go through another institution. Okay, we just went through some process steps in blockchain. And I have just given the view of what's a classic blockchain. But there are different kinds of blockchains you can have based on attributes such as access. If it's completely open, it's a public blockchain, which, by the way, most of the cryptocurrency websites, they're public because it's just open to the public. A vast number of people want to deal with them. And then that's a sliding scale there. As you see the arrows going up and down, it can be private, which means it's just internal for a company or somebody who wants to do certain transactions alone. It can be. It needs authorization and validation. It can be a consortium where you have different types of blockchain people getting together. Say you're trading with some particular parts that's required for an industry. So you can all have a consortium in order to control that supply chain going from one step to the next. And there is hybrid, which often is a government and a private partnership. So the access moves from being completely open to restricted or mixed, as in the case of hybrid. And then the governance, again, that's the important feature. It's completely decentralized if it's public, right? It's totally peer-to-peer. It's just you and the other person connecting and transacting with each other. Or if you make it private, it's centralized. Somebody is seeing what's happening in the blockchain. And of course, so as you can see, when the access is fully open, the speed is slow. That makes sense, doesn't it? That if you want to go through so many people and everybody can access it, you have to build so many levels of checks and balances. Therefore, the speed slows down. But if I authorize only a few people, there's already a presumption that there is a checking going on for them before that. So that can be much faster. So it's always going to be a trade-off. Likewise with transparency. If you want to have a high transparency and keep it very open, that's going to conflict with the speed. So many companies and entities would choose what kind of blockchain they want based on that. So that's just to give an overview for you of that blockchain is not just one thing. It's not just the way cryptocurrency is. Many companies are using it for managing their supply chain. That's a very popular thing. And for many other reasons as well. Okay. So this is just an explanation of blockchain. Now I want to get into the application. And we understood some parts of blockchain. But do you all have any questions? Anybody? Anything more you want to say about it? I'm wondering when is a good time to give them a short break? Now
We can stop now.
take a short
Uh-huh.
break because when I come back, I want to talk about some of the applications and how and use cases and also the implications for accounting and auditing. I know
Yeah.
you said 11:15, but I thought we can.
Yeah,
Do-
11:15 will
We'll
be
come
good.
back.
So there's a clock there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we come back at 11:15.
Yeah. Any questions any of you have? Please think of them before that. Yeah.
How does the energy demand do you think compared to some?
That's a great question, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's an important thing that people are debating. Let me just go back to that, this one. So, and I'm just going to just think creatively. Do you think if we have high transparency and open access versus the opposite, will consume more energy or less? Which one do you think will consume more energy?
Public.
Yeah, great. That's your intuition, and that's exactly how it is. So that's another reason why people want to keep it a little more restricted, have a private blockchain. And before we start the next section, I want to give you an idea of the proof of work, which we talked about, which is a complex calculation. And there is something else called proof of stake. So there are different kinds of blockchain that's being used. They are just the two big ones. So, okay, I'll just give you the idea, and when we come back, we can talk more about it. Remember how I said proof of work is that very complex computation, which people have to do, and it really does need very advanced mathematical and cryptographic skills. That consumes a lot of power. That's what the miners do. They keep working on all these till they come to the target key, be a value that's established, or below that, they have to meet that criteria. So they have to do a ton of computation. In order to take away that much of energy demands, another blockchain system called Ethereum, which is not Bitcoin, Ethereum developed, where they give you a proof of stake. So instead of just doing the proof of work, you still have to do some computations, but you have a proof of stake, which means you invest something. So in other words, skin in the game is another way to say it. So you're putting in some amount of you're staking some of your own coins or your investment there in order to get it. So the amount of computation you do is shrunk since you have a two-step verification type thing. It's not exactly two-step, but you can think of it as similar to being for the two-step verification because you have the proof of stake and then your computation can get less. So therefore, you can reduce the energy demand. So the energy demands will tend to go lower if you make it a little more restricted, a little more centralized.
Is Ethereum not open though? It seems like a very public.
Ethereum is open, but they still have, yes, as far as if you want to trade in Ether in their coins, yes, it's very much open. But people build, so Ethereum is the blockchain of choice for building something like smart contracts, for instance. So when you want to do all that, people build that on Ethereum. And yes, even if it's open, in the case of Ethereum, so there's two ways to reduce the energy demand. Okay. One is by creating proof of stake. The other is by restricting it. So proof of stake naturally also reduces the amount of energy demand.
Interesting.
So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to dive into
Yeah, please. Yeah, use the break to look that up and come back and ask more questions if you want. But shall we meet back at 11:15? And then while you're away, if something occurs to you, please come back and we can start with clarifying any questions because I'd like to do that before we go into some of the applications and so on. Maybe I'll go.
Let's check. Me too.
for you last week. Last week.
We have same presentation.
You didn't send.
Yes.
We're together with you. I don't know.
You just.
And
Not like one class, right? It's one class. Classes are almost done.
Yeah, and then I have to figure out how to move out. And then I have to figure out how to
I sent you the video.
get my ticket. That's why I have. Yeah.
No, text.
Yeah, tech.
One text?
Huh?
Where in Texas?
2 hours south of San Antonio. Or now. Yeah. We got the best Mexican.
It's not crazy though.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I don't use it. Maybe I could version name.
Nobody.
It's nobody.
Let's go to my passado.
Right by the border. I can see too well.
I know the part.
That was animal.
Sure.
Oh.
Maybe you just president maybe.
Yeah.
This weather.
You're on the WhatsApp?
Yes.
I think WhatsApp is on the.
No, the part of.
We have a group or you
want to create it.
That's always fun.
God, caí pra
That's where my dad is at.
Gente,
So every time we go, we get to go to the beach. I hate the beach, but fun for everyone else.
Repeat the beat.
Hate the beach.
Yeah.
Sticky. Sticky.
Come on. It's really crazy. My muscle.
My go-to here.
No.
Every guy is secret.
Not
I love your good tostadas tipo Siberia.
I think that.
Yes, I have it
Yeah.
received.
Tostada
Email
is
from the homepage. It has
basically like
it's next
flat
for the
tor-
last
flat
week about
crispy
the
tortilla.
9th of April we and the record.
Yeah.
with sour cream or Mexican cream,
What about bacon?
chicken, guacamole. Yeah, the usual. It's so good. It's like a local thing.
I just think of styles like banana.
Oh, like tostones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not.
His name is Steve.
Yeah.
His dress and
Yeah.
and him
Oh.
being,
Probably just which one? Which number are you using most of your? One.
Yeah, look.
One.
Get something to eat.
Yeah.
Now I'm craving it.
the American. My face.
And it's,
Honestly, my always hits. There's like an old woman selling tamales outside the grocery store.
oh my god, no, those are the best.
Especially the wider the grocery store too.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I get you. I get you. Oh my god, no, Facebook mom selling. You got us.
Trying to think. I feel like I just saw one recently here too. I feel like we don't. I never run it.
Oh really? Oh my
It was like
god.
it wasn't a Whole Foods, but it was like a Whole Foods type.
Oh my god, if you ever see one, let me know. I'm like, I've been craving some good tamales. I didn't get to eat some the last time that I went to my house. No tamales. No menudo either. Oh, menudo's so good.
Wait, maybe.
Yeah. Do you know what menudo is?
What is it like? Okay, like rice and beans?
No, not even close.
I don't know. No.
It's a good stew. Stew the right word.
It looks like. Yeah.
still don't know what the Chinese word is. It's tripe.
It's something, what is that? Is that chicken or no? Or is that just
It's
like?
cow stomach.
Stomach?
It's so good. Don't bash it till you try it.
No, no,
It's
I,
so
my,
good.
my mom said she traveled a lot on.
Yeah, a lot of it.
She had.
Question.
Oh, no, Caltech is so
You don't need 90.
It sounds fun.
It's, well, I've never had it.
I think that's the thing. With it's like fat.
Oh, oh my god.
I just took the second one yesterday.
Sounds terrifying.
Yep.
Hey,
Yeah,
no,
when that,
I'm blanking out.
that month, or less a day.
You know what that is?
Hindsight probably isn't a good idea because that's when all the finals are, but.
No. It's,
I'm gonna go first.
I guess, kind of,
They haven't given their start to
but
yet.
it's like made with cow.
Probably what? Well, then it's start like the
So-
it'll be the first day of that.
I recommend like the best part. I'd say one of, if not the best.
Well, the,
You always ask for.
对你申请，
Yeah,
为什么要交那个申请？
yeah,
那个
which is like really late, so I'm hoping.
哦，那个是
It's got there, so I don't know if it's gonna be the same thing or
不要
different.
找的是啥？哦，
Because if you're like.
哦，那个
I don't
那
know.
个我没申请，我申请另外一个。哦，你没申请那个？对，你申请的是那个老师给我推荐啊。哦，就没你没选那个3分那个，你选的是1.5分，要拿到那个。我准备找那个叫我们那个去，要不我又准备就是他如果
所以没有
差不多在4月1号直接填。对啊，明天填。你选的是那个去其他地方吗？那个吗？
I think it's like a more common accounting.
I just like.
I didn't know about that, until, yeah, like, I don't know.
然后就那4大哥，那4个就是他给那个4个表，其他的话你可以好像可以那个选读。
What do you rather eat?
如果你直接选黑的
Or cow stomach.
Unless you're,
黑的那个是跟选课一样的，直接就
I
把
know that there was.
这个是点击节奏。
I think.
那就
就不用那个面试。
They're like,
That's like a calculus.
shut down was like.
Yeah.
那个是哪个？
If you can handle
They were
fat.
doing actual,
Oh,
like,
I-
it worked.
Okay. Then
Yeah.
It's really,
Come on,
it's like
you're
acting
not saying
like.
Friday.
对，然后你手上的话，你直接
Which is like good, it's a good experience. but-
I can't handle the gushing.
So we're together.
这个
Yeah. Enough paper.
I have a big thing.
What about?
外加
You try.
教编娘。
也交给
Which one? The like.
这周会出
ones
结
or
果
the-
啊。
Because I think we present next week, right?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So
It's just like fried fat.
你经常吃人，
I can send it to you. I have it.
到搜自己下学期开什么课？我要去抽奖，
行不行？
要抽奖，抽的分50刀给
可以不要再一直跟踪他。Secret of my。
Which one's this?
地学本走。
This.
我们对，我搜这个交哪门，我们就选哪门。还有那个做没做相，站没站相，他教谁，他教啥我们就上啥。就这么定。
Oh, and if you ever get to try carnitas. That's
我给你发吧。This is the。出这个。
yeah.
Like a
Had that.
It's
But
a
that's
layer.
different than.
It's the layer of the skin that you're talking about, and then
一般属于
That's both so good.
谢谢。
Yeah.
They literally cooked in flour.
I'm a big believer that putting lime.
这是第3次。你的孕母蛋白。
我没有一直在买，我每周换着买。
我们是第3次。
我每周换，
最后一个。
我每周换着买。
那些把我。 tricky. Yeah, it's like little telephone. And
Okay,之前
they
都-
apparently they don't allow, like they don't sell it in the US. I guess like farmer turtle.
You got that.
But in Mexico.
Oh, that should be.
Doing like the.
It's like- it's like-
Was
Fried
from.
or how's it-
Google now.
How's it cut?
They applied in
Yes.
COVID.
I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
It looks like.
Graduate.
Okay, okay.
Because
like-
That's good news.
One of us was, I was gonna do the hypothesis or hypotheses. And then were you doing like an introduction and then Connor doing it?
和这个是一样的。
I think Connor and I are gonna like build like a team.
I gotta have
And then you just make the changes.
some.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
Coincide on
they everywhere you go.
Yeah, I've never seen it in night.
I just it's the funny thing.
It's crazy. It's like
Yeah. Just like explain.
Is it? That's what my return is today.
they like they serve it in like and you can just also just order like
Like, did you say you're in Portland?
这是斑点香蕉，这个品种。我不知道，到时候可能建议上门吧。
Just be a
Introduction.
Mexican like,
哦，一个电话打给我。
Oh, no, we have HEB. Solo.
there's like yes
yes,
and there's like egg ranch.
知道吗？
Yeah, okay.
有上了。
这个 Taylor
那干嘛呀？
I was craving some Mexican. 这个 Taylor 他
I know I lived in and when I moved here I thought it was like oh like I didn't know how different it would be.
Like
The stores were just everywhere.
我好。
Like,
Oh,
see,
yeah.
some Mexican people would stay and
No, honestly, coming from a place that had like 90%, 95% Mexican people, I was like, oh, we're not the minority. We're the minority.
yeah. When you're there, you don't.
Yeah.
Too.
也是我第一。
这个是
不能开吗？
这个是
小孩选那个汤费了，不是汤姆那个，
好的，让看。
就是汤姆费了。
听着。When you go to Juarez or something,
Oh my god.
like our whole family, Riz loves to eat. So, like.
After the semester, like grade nine.
I wonder if they're making.
It's fine. It's hard. to find,
是不是得上到九倍？
Like my junior year. You know? There's like
理论
representation.
上我觉得会这样，然后。
I'll make it easy.
And then my chicken and rice. What is this?
I'll get up.
I need to go now, so yeah. What is it?
Go down. He's from school. What I was doing.
Yeah. Whole bunch of like to the middle, like.
Back?
I'm not really busy. The math, I guess.
All right, this is the second part of the class. Let's come back. It seems like this topic is really interesting. I can see that you are very much into this. And the second section that Purnima is going to probably give us some application cases we can work on with our hands-on to better understand this topic.
Great, thank you so much. Welcome back. Are there people online as well? You're all back?
Wow.
I hope so.
Yes,
one person
yes.
online?
Yeah.
I'm here online.
Okay, I'm sure you use the break time to go and do some research on proof of work and proof of stake. Is that right? Is that what you all did in the break time? Okay. Yeah, that's what we expect master students to do, isn't it? So any questions on that? I know that part is a little bit heavy on, absorbing all those concepts, especially if you're hearing about blockchain for the first time.
Actually, we have a beta alpha side chapter here for
Uh-huh.
accounting. She is in charge of that. That's why I see her. And in the future, just open up the venue that potentially Bethany, you can have Purnima, given that we already get familiar with Purnima.
Okay. So but the beta alpha side is I know it's been a long time since I was a student and I was on the beta alpha side. That's just the honor society, right?
That's the International Honor Society for
Okay. Okay. What kind of activities do you all have?
We have every week we have professional events where we bring in speakers.
Okay.
It's really helpful for us to connect.
Okay, great. No, that's a great opportunity for you to explore what I will call as almost alternative careers, or, even with the mainstream accounting profession, this is such a big deal now. Almost every, does anyone here regularly read the Journal of Accountancy? Do they have access to that? Do they subscribe? I mean, is it there in the
Oh yeah,
lounge?
accountancy is we have the journal subscription at the library.
Okay.
Right? So
please do look it up and see. Almost every issue of it these days carries something about either artificial intelligence or blockchain. And why I'm putting them both together is maybe some of you know already, that's the Web 3.0 that's coming, that's going to combine all of these. So to bring in the concepts of decentralization from blockchain, the complete decentralization with the peer-to-peer, or of course, based on the sliding scale, it may not be fully decentralized, but we'll have a lot of decentralized features, and the robotic and automation feature will be very different in the Web 3.0. And that's going to be a big game changer for accounting. So it's great if you'll stay in touch and just glance through the articles, see what there is in that. And most of them are very practical, unlike purely academic journals, which are heavy and dense in content, and you have to really sit with a pencil in order to understand them. The articles in Journal of Accountancy are pretty easy to read. And I'm sure your state also probably, I don't know if the Missouri State CPA Society has a journal. They'll also have a lot of articles that are easy to read and digest. So if you're interested in these topics, please keep up with it by reading any kind of a journal that you can access. Okay, great. Are there any questions, or shall we just proceed? Yes.
So public and private are pretty straightforward, but what's the application or use of the hybrid or the consortium?
So the hybrid is typically for, say you're a regulator, or you have some kind of an investment in an agency that you want to look at, supervise, moderate. Like say a housing society that might do something for real estate ownership, which is put on blockchain, then that would be a hybrid. A consortium, so that's the hybrid, where there is, both are there. It could be a public-private partnership of some sort. public doesn't necessarily mean it's a government, but any kind of a regulatory agency. A consortium is where similar groups can get together. Say you're all on the supply chain for manufacturing a Toyota minivan. So several of those suppliers could be on the same consortium of the blockchain, so it helps track the supply chain across that. Maybe I start with a basic metal part and you do the software and someone else does other, the interior and the leather seating or something else. So we can have a consortium in order to, so we can talk to each other. So a consortium is really a bunch of private companies, potentially, that could do it. It could also be a public, like 3 different crypto companies, but that's not common. There's no real sense for it. By the way, I mentioned Toyota because Toyota does use blockchain now for most of its supply chain. And they're tracking it. And it's really great because then you know where you are as far as the supply chain. Yes.
Would it be fair to say the more centralized blockchain is, the more vulnerable it is to like, that's a little bit that popped up for me, that the proof of stake, since it's less computational.
Yes. So that's a great question as well. It was one of those that I was definitely going to address at the end, but I'm going to talk about it now. I'd rather do the, discussion of things as and when the thoughts occur to you than go by my template of, oh, this is what I had planned to present. So that's really great. Like, I'm happy you asked the energy question as well. That was important. So many of these things that we consider as negative aspects are important to bring in and discuss. So having a centralized system of data is exactly the reason why we do need a decentralized system. But that's why the centralized data collection or access or governance, any of those, needs a whole lot more validation outside. So you have to be completely pre-approved to a military grade level so that you can go there and do that. But that is, maybe, has anyone delved into cybersecurity here? Or did you all have a course, information security, that kind of thing?
Yeah, a little bit.
If you did, you may have heard of the term honeypot. So the honeypot is literally like the bear with the honeypot. So, well, before I say anything, let me ask you, why do you think one system, the centralized versus the decentralized, which one is more vulnerable? I think you gave a hint at it.
Decentralized, right?
Yeah. And why so? Because that's the honeypot. So if all the information is sitting with, say my detailed information is sitting with a credit card company, and I am a bad guy who wants to go and target and get a lot of, and break into people's identities, it's too much for me to go, what is this, a class of 40? The cost involved for me to go to each one of you and tap into your identities is too much. Whereas if you all gave all your financial and personal information to Dr. Martin, then all I have to do is access her software. It's just one point of entry. So she has the honeypot then. Or Shu, they have the honeypot. If you put all that information in one spot, it does make it more vulnerable. So there is an additional case for blockchain. You're putting things on the blockchain because it's far more secure, much less subject to fraud in that sense. In addition to the tight cryptography, it also is more important to keep it on blockchain because it's very diffused. You can't just get at one source and then break in there. Good, that's a good thought. Okay. We looked at that and now we understand. We understand blockchain? Kind of, right? You got some concepts? Yes? Did you have something? No. Okay, we kind of understand. So I want us to start thinking about, what are the uses of blockchain? What do we do with it? Of course, if you want to follow cryptocurrencies, go to something like CoinDesk and you will, be able to see. It's very direct and straightforward what cryptocurrencies do and what they do not do. And one of the questions that comes to me often is that, what is a crypto versus token? Have you all heard the concept of token? Like, we talked about NFTs, I just mentioned it. So what NFT is it's a non-fungible token. So that asset concept that we saw earlier, that's contained in the block, is really a representation of an asset through a token. So the difference between cryptocurrencies and token is just more technical. A cryptocurrency is a token. You can think of it as a token, which is an icon or a representation of an asset that you own, an ownership. And you can also think of it as, oh, I have a bank account and here's my access. Here's my login or my ATM card. So one is the asset, the other is the access. So the token can be thought of as the access. Similarly, with the cryptocurrency is a kind of token. Just that when we have a token that is native to that blockchain, for example, Bitcoin and the traditional blockchain, the original blockchain, and Ether, I think we just touched upon it before the break, for Ethereum is a native token, so it's a crypto, and so on. So there are many more examples. But if you take some other asset and make it into an NFT, or create an asset on the blockchain because you're converting some other asset into putting it on blockchain, then we just call it token. So in this case, for example, Bitcoin is obviously, it's a native currency. So it's a native token, so it's a currency. On the other hand, you can put something like real estate, and we didn't touch upon this so far, but real estate can be tokenized. Has anyone heard of that? This is a big change that's happening in the real estate industry. Anyone read about real estate being put on the blockchain? Okay. It's a new development, and it's really pretty interesting because it allows for what we might call fractional ownership, similar to mutual funds, where if I want to buy shares in maybe Apple, I may not want to invest so much money in one particular share, but I can become an owner, part owner, by owning mutual funds in it. That's kind of a fractional ownership. You own only a piece of it. The same thing is being done for real estate. See, this big building that belongs to WashU, maybe you can all as students have fractional ownership. So every student passing through can have some ownership in either the real estate or the football field or whatever else there is here on site. And you get a token for that. So my token represents $1,000 and it's worth 0.001% of the whole ownership. But you can do that, and that's being done increasingly for a lot of buildings and real estate. So that's one example of a token that's not a crypto. Same with the NFT, a painting, music. Increasingly, a lot of artists are putting their music on blockchain. Yes, you had a question.
I think Claude has a question.
Oh, Cloud has a
Oh,
question.
sorry. Okay, go ahead, Claude.
No, I just wanted to clarify if that falls under smart contracts, for example, the real estate being on the blockchain.
Sorry, the real estate on the blockchain?
Yeah, is that smart contract?
You need a smart contract for a transaction.
Oh,
So if it has to go and do something, you can make a smart contract out of anything. But if it's just a direct sale, say you put the real estate on blockchain and you break it into, say, 1,000 pieces, it's just a direct sale. You can use a smart contract to implement that sale, for sure. You can do that. But there is no what if. So smart contract is best served when you have a if then type of logic. So if this
Okay.
happens, then that should happen.
Okay, I think I just need to update my definition of smart contract. I had a different definition in mind. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, one of the simplest examples of that if then is a classic use is in a vending machine. So if I put in 50 cents, I get a bag of this size chips. So that's like a smart contract. By putting in that and pressing that D1 or whatever I want to, that's exactly what I get. So a smart contract is something like that, where there is a choice of more than one thing, and then you have if or then. So if you have those parameters, then it makes for a good smart contract that can be written in. It may not be worth the cost. Claude, did you have another question? I see your hand up. Okay. Yeah, no worries. Thank you. Yeah, yes.
I just wanted to understand the difference between the cryptocurrency and the token. So tokens are built on existing blockchains?
Yeah, if it's already there, they're built on existing blockchains.
Cryptocurrency, they have their own blockchain.
Yes, it is what we would call native to it, meaning that it's so the Ethereum, its own native token is the Ether. So that's one way of thinking it. Okay, let me put it another way. On the same blockchain, or the same technology of blockchain, like say I can use Ethereum, and I can put real estate, and I can put some art on it, and I can put precious metals too. That's the other one that's just one other example. So I can put all of them and they're represented by tokens. But none of them is directly a currency. Will that make it any clearer? I don't want to overemphasize the distinction between token and currency because a currency is a kind of token. It's just that it belongs to that blockchain.
For this analogy, because the cryptocurrency is like they build the roads, and then the cryptocurrency builds the roads, and the token sort of rides on.
Yeah, the token usually represents another asset. Okay, that's another way to think of it. It represents something else. So it represents some other physical asset, although you really have an asset there also because you have a complete right and ownership to it. But there is nothing else in crypto. It's just a currency. And the reason I'm just, I want to be a little careful with my words is, so crypto is, we think of it as a currency because you can pay for it, right? You can go to any shop. You can go to Target. And by the way, there are ATM cryptos. Has any of you seen those ATMs? There are places where there are kiosks outside some gas stations and small vending machines. I was driving around in some part of rural Tennessee last year and I saw crypto machines that give out cryptos. So people are evidently using it for shopping of some sort, or maybe they're just accumulating it. But you can use it as a currency. I can't go take my watch and say, hey, here's my Apple Watch. Can you give me something, sell me a laptop or something else? So this is, even though it's, for me, it's an asset, but it's not a currency. But I can use crypto that way. Yeah, or if I have a painting, or if I have gold bars, I don't go and exchange it usually. That would be different, and that's what we would call barter. But cryptocurrency, you can trade directly because it's actually expressed in terms of US dollars or any other currency values. But here is one point, since we are all accountants here. A good thing to know is, how do you think the IRS treats cryptocurrencies? So you all see balance sheets all the time. And you see cash there, right? You see cash. and you see investments, you see many things. And that's for the financial statement part of it. But what happens as far as tax is concerned?
I think
Yeah,
it's treated
guess-
as an asset, right?
It
It's
is.
a taxable event.
It is, exactly. Yeah, did you have something else?
Say
Yeah.
property.
That's right. It treats it as an asset because it has fluctuating values. So unlike US dollars, I mean, if I say I have $1,000 in the bank, I have $1,000 in the bank. But if I have crypto, today it could be 1,000, tomorrow it could be something else, and maybe I get really rich on it. So maybe in 2 years, that same thing becomes 10,000, and then the IRS really wants to know because they want to tax me on that 9,000. So that's the reason that I'm just using the terminology a little carefully. It's an asset for tax purposes. But really, it's a currency in the way we use it. We call it cryptocurrency too. And it's an evolving field. I'm definitely not going to say this is something that's like this is firm, this is permanent, and this is how it will stay. It's an evolving field because everybody's trying to understand how to deal with this new world in which we have all these tokenized assets, which represent some, ownership, and then there is cryptocurrency and how to treat all of this. Yeah.
Is it taxed as like capital gains on disposal or?
Like any other asset. Yeah. In any case, you will track it because you don't even have to wait until disposal. You'll have to track it because, no need to go to, but there may be some realized gains and some unrealized gains, and you have to be tracking all of that for tax purposes, which will be different, of course, from what you do on your financial statements. And okay, so now we have the token and we have the crypto, and they're kind of similar. How do we get hold of some of them? Maybe some of you are thinking, oh, cool, I'd like to get some of them. So there's just 3 ways, just an idea of how do you do this. You can mine, and we talked about that. That's when you solve those complex problems, the computational problems, and that's the one that actually takes a lot of power. And of course, now with quantum computing, there is a thought that maybe this will become a little too easy. So let's see what happens to that, how foolproof it would be. And I don't know enough now to say how much that will change everything, how it will change the landscape. But remember, we also have to have consensus because this is a 51%. The algorithm is such that 51% of the nodes on that network, which means basically users on that network, have also to give consensus to that. Then there's another way to get at some coins. Of course, you can go to CoinDesk and buy, or any of them. We talked, maybe someone mentioned Binance, you can go somewhere to a website and buy cryptocurrencies. That's one easy way. And minting is when you create an asset with a token, where you create a token, where you put an asset on blockchain and you create a token. So you have some unique digital assets. Like I said, music is one of them too, because a lot of musicians are putting their music on blockchain. And that gives them instant way that's actually a good example of a smart contract as well. So you created a piece of music, and the second anyone plays it, uploads it, downloads it, does anything to it, you get paid. You don't have to track for all the royalties. So the royalties actually is a great example of how blockchain has been and is being used. There are musicians who have put that. And of course, many other artists have put their paintings and everything as well. So those are some ways to get it. And I'm going to give you this idea of some of the features of use cases. And then I want to give you all a few minutes to come up with use cases that you can think of on your own. So here are the features that make blockchain great for additional use cases. One is the decentralization, which means you can eliminate intermediaries. So for you to come up with use cases, you can think of any number of places where there are intermediaries, and sometimes you don't even think of certain entities as intermediaries, but they are. Then there's, of course, tokenization, which means you can put anything on the blockchain and create a token as long as it has economic value for someone in addition to yourself. As long as you think it has economic value. And there is the question of immutable records, which this is a legal term, I guess, provenance, which means basically if the record is immutable, remember how we talked about you can never go back and rewrite the old block? You have to only create a new block. So what does it do? It keeps the history from the cradle to the grave, from the day you began till the day it ends. Nothing can be changed. So if first you owned it and then you owned it and then you owned it and then you owned it and something, maybe it's a piece of property, maybe it's real estate, anything, it keeps track of all that forever and ever, never gets destroyed. So that's what makes it immutable. So this is used for a lot of art, luxury items, and many things as well. Maybe those are some of the use cases. That's my topic. I'm going to come to that soon. But how about we take 5 minutes and you all can either talk in groups or you want to do that individually, and then I'm going to ask you all to just volunteer some other use cases that you can think of. And don't worry if it's already in use or here. Just think of it on your own. I encourage you to just spend some time thinking rather than just Google searching. Okay, so maybe we'll take 5 minutes on that. If you'll need more, we'll do that at the end. How can you use blockchain? And some of the hints lie in some of these features. If there's something else you can think of, that's great too. So we're talking about blockchain, not cryptocurrency. Feel free to ask me questions in between. What?
I'm getting email from Craig. He's the one hosting. It'd be embarrassing. No,
So you're gonna skip him at 4.
I cannot do that.
You can't do that.
There is one. Chat. I thought skip that and go to 5 o'clock. No, I don't think there is today. The last 2 events we canceled. Last
I was at the.
that is. Because I cannot host dinner.
Yeah, I got I don't know what the curve like. Something. I think they would be so bad. I should have to probably curve my class, which is why I think our presentation, my class would probably be great.
By the way, just to make it interesting, I'm going to call on people who haven't spoken in the class before. We'll start there, okay? Just so everybody feels a sense of inclusion.
I mean, if the first exam was what was the average? 7.
What is what?
There's a whole lot of ways. It's like a person.
Yeah.
Zero of them. Or like, have you done
Like,
like blockchain? You can add stuff on, like.
I think you can use, but if you can use that, but you. Money or whatever things, that is. Hard to use.
it's more like, you know, this meeting now.
I can't imagine like.
Let's see what he's at.
What did-
Change.
Transactions.
I don't think it's easy.
No, transactions, like, you know, if you have to confirm with third party, right, that will.
Thank you.
This password.
Auditing the watch.
No, there's maybe like, bank.
It's like, what good
The
development?
blockchain.
It's good development.
No, but it's.
Like, within that, I'm like, it's that, but. There is no.
Yeah. It
Well, they see the banks.
Okay, back in, oh, yeah. Yeah. What happened? That's what it.
Why, I talked through that.
Yeah, you can please see that from that part of it.
Yeah, like a lot. Because I was talking about like this regulation.
You're not gonna know.
It's a silk
If I'm
road.
on the blockchain, it's a.
But he was like, yeah, like I have.
Like smart contract.
Smart.
Yeah.
Were you in the silk?
Oh, yeah.
He was in the silk road. He
Go.
was.
Yeah, I'm.
You were in the silk.
His dad. His dad's.
I mean, I don't think she's that bad.
2009.
It's maybe.
Very, she's not a great.
How many? Right. How many of you?
Yeah, no, you were in silk road.
No, I learned to this. Versus Jack.
Oh, yeah. That's not.
Smart contract.
Couple more minutes? Do you all need more time?
Yeah. Yeah. Did you just figure out banking, that's it?
What does that mean?
No, you have to do the transactions.
You do transact.
Yeah. No, in that case, you don't have to have.
There's like a class that's kind of like it. No. It's more.
I'll do it like blockchain when you cannot do these things. That's what I'm saying. That will
So it's one where it was like a lot of the tasks are like, you have to make your way. You have to like.
Make it easier.
I
For auditors,
one.
it'll make
Find
it.
find a job opening and find like 3 people. Commit to it and then like.
That's why they got.
And it was like actually. So it was, yeah, no, definitely. It was kind of like, there's a lot of.
That's good. So you cannot do it.
I saw, I was like, she would sign a lot of it. So it'd be like a lot of like.
That's why I have to.
Yeah, next was like a small consulting.
这两个他都讲过了
It's right, they don't do a lot of.
啊。
What, you didn't think about it? Yeah.
So you,
But then.
you don't need another minute or two, or are we ready to go?
Say it.
Need a minute or no?
One more. minute.
Okay, one more minute. Let's wait till 11.
What's a good?
That's
Yeah. What about you guys? Are you guys gonna handle that?
apart from this.
Yeah. No, it's okay. We got
Wait 2 minutes. You're one.
Yeah, I can go for a little bit. I have one at dinner with my friend. Earlier today.
Yeah.
Let me know how.
It's crazy what he does with swallow. I got computer. I feel like I kind of already used out like all my like credits.
No, you cannot say that. Yeah. Oh, that's
Okay,
fine.
that,
Oh,
that's,
that's fine.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
public record.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Looks like y'all are ready, right? Okay. So everybody has a use case, your next big idea, startup? Okay, wonderful. Let's start from there. And you can just tell me if you worked in a group or the first 2-3 people, did you work in a group or individually? Anyone from there? Okay, you wrong? Go ahead.
By blockchain technology into like, trace the whole supply chain of the food product. Like you can check the source of this and the material and check its carbon footprint and whether it lie with the regulation, like whether the company use child labor like that.
Okay, great. Did you all work together? Okay.
Yeah, I think we just said like it helps for companies to prove that what they're saying is right, or also help them to what like what they're publicizing.
It meets that criteria. Excellent. Actually, those have been some of the some people, new restaurants, some of the high-end Michelin starred restaurants have started to do that. Because if you claim that this is lobster from Maine, it had better be lobster from Maine. And so that's the idea of the provenance, and they're using it, but inclusion of things like, did they meet the labor standard? Or some other environmental concern, or anything else that you want to think about, is it locally sourced? Would be a great application of that. Anyone else had the same idea? No, but food is great. Like even in Walmart, and or anywhere else, you go there and they kind of claim that this is imported from so and so, or it is locally made. And both things may be important to different groups of customers. So they would want to hear that. Okay, great idea. Thank you for doing that. Claude, are you available to share your idea? Hi, Claude.
Yes. Hi.
Hi. What idea did you have?
Piece
of blockchain.
I'm thinking like peer-to-peer energy trading.
Huh? Sorry?
Like peer-to-peer energy trading, an energy trading platform.
Can anyone hear?
Energy trading, peer-to-peer
Energy.
trading.
I heard the word energy.
Yeah, energy trading platform.
Energy trading platform.
Energy trading. Okay. Can you elaborate on that? Did you mean like renewable energy?
So there's a company called Brooklyn Microgrid that does use blockchain for their trading, right? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. It's just a little diffused, but I can hear you. Yeah, I heard the company that does the energy that it has on blockchain. Do you know what they do? What kind of energy?
So it's mostly solar energy.
Exactly. Okay. Renewable.
Yeah, so yes, but so they it's like peer to peer. They use
Yep.
in that the house individual houses are the peers, and then they have solar panels, and these solar panels generate energy, and so each house can trade any excess energy that it has into the grid, and then they validate that using blockchain.
Fantastic. Actually, solar energy is a great example because I don't know how many of you are aware, but we have the grid. I'm from Florida, and we have a grid where we can sell to the grid, and then we get some tax credits. I can't directly give you the energy that, maybe Megan needs some energy, but I can't give it to her to run your car, operate your garage, anything. But I can only sell to the grid, and the grid cuts off because they don't have the ability to manage anymore. So a peer-to-peer usage of that for many renewable energies. Maybe there are many things I can do at home on a small scale and create some energy and directly share it with somebody. So this company sounds like they have the ability to somehow store or help you store it, and then you do a peer-to-peer. So think of that. I mean, this is great, isn't it? Especially when we have an oil crisis or an energy crisis. So many people use that even to heat their homes, and to have access to cheap energy that you can trade with somebody is fantastic. Okay, great. I love all these. And these are great ideas for you all to keep in mind. If any of you choose to go in business, it's nice. I mean, the best part of being in a great accounting program, a master's program like this, is you learn a lot from your peers. Okay, let's hear from somebody here in the center. I haven't heard from any of you. Do you work in a group, or do you have anybody? I can't see all of your names, but Gwenry.
Gwenry, yeah.
Okay. Yuzin and Lee. Any of you?
It play a valuable role. Like recently we have on a project about physical AI application, and we need to use the data for farmer company to they can use the data to do more research on what they focus on, or research about the medicine. So
okay,
and you can use the data, but the data need to be transparent, and it need to be tracked. So
okay, great. I haven't heard of that, but that's like a data sharing on the blockchain for medical purposes.
I haven't used blockchain, but it need to share the data about the motion or data
on medicine. No, that's a good use of it. I haven't heard of that, but we're always looking for new ideas, right? Doesn't mean that everything is out there. Blockchain is still new. So something like that would be useful if people could put that on the blockchain, and who needed it were able to use it and share it in a transparent way. Okay, good. Okay, anyone else wants to volunteer? And then I'll call maybe for a few more ideas. Anyone else?
You had a good one.
Okay, Jay? Yeah.
You could use it as kind of a storage site. Stuff like birth certificates or other unchanging documents like those.
That's fantastic. Did anyone else have this? For birth certificate, she said, but it's being used in many ways, similar concept. And yeah, it can be. And why do you think it's important? What do you think blockchain contributes there that any other database or system doesn't?
Kind of because Because it's unchanging, it kind of prevents any material changes to the documents.
Yes. The immutable property, right? The immutable property that doesn't allow you to make any alterations, unauthorized changes, and so on. That's great. And I want to mention that this is being used a lot for property records. And I'm originally from India. I grew up there, so I keep track of a lot of things that happen. And one of the problems is people alter property records, especially since they have gone back several generations. This could happen anywhere. I'm just talking of something I know that's familiar to me. And many farmers who are barely literate don't know how to go and contest those records. So they're using it to, like there are whole villages who have now put their property records on blockchain. So it shows the history, like my great-great-great-grandfather or somebody in my ancestry from the 18th century, 17th century has had this. So therefore, I can show that that land belongs to me. And because it's immutable, that is a fantastic way to keep track of it and not allow manipulation by some local, greedy land grab kind of person who wants to come and do it. That's being used extensively. Another example of where people are using these kind of personal records is for voting. And the first successful use of voting records was in Sierra Leone, where because it allows you to give the validation, particularly in places where they don't have other checks and balances to the same extent, this is really useful. And by the way, it was used for, I think, a local election in West Virginia about 2 years ago. That was just an experimental run. I imagine how much it will change the landscape for a lot of people who are slowly losing trust in the whole electoral system even. Not just in the US, anywhere. With all the social media and everything else, and people creating fake AI pictures, it's hard to trust any system. But if you had something on blockchain that would keep records of all this, that would really be a big change. Plus, the transaction cost is very low. Okay, someone else had their hand up for, yes.
Similar to that, but I was thinking, were we talking about like sort of schools or foundations can use it like for academic like alumni? Because you could kind of add more like every year without having to remove the previous ones. And obviously they stay in the system forever. It seems kind of like user friendly. So I'm not exactly sure you can utilize it in that way, but if there's any sort of like alumni benefits or alumni network, you could kind of have it like user to user facing. And then yeah, just like a database that has all like alumni information in it, and it's easy to add to it without changing the stuff that's already in there.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, one of the things that alumni do a lot of is fundraising too, right? So you could definitely do it on the blockchain and keep the integrity of all that as to who's contributed how much. And also many other alumni records, including in the same way that Jay suggested about birth records, all your college transcripts. Imagine how nice it would be if you didn't have, if all you did was authorized a bunch of colleges to look at your transcripts and they could just do that from almost anywhere in the world. If everybody had that, that would be great. All I need to do is give somebody permission to look at certain records of mine, whether it's the fact that I have a driver's license, the fact that I have a passport that's, from whichever country, and all those would be easily accessible to somebody. And your privacy is protected because the way that the validation of all these works is not that somebody can go and see the birth certificate, but that they know that I have a birth certificate which says I was born in a certain year, it's been verified. But I can also choose to withhold the year because there is, of course, illegal age discrimination. But maybe all it will allow them to see is, hey, I'm above the age of 18 and I'm authorized to work. So so you can control that kind of information. But all people will see, if say it's a potential employer or somebody I'm doing business with, they'll just see that I have a valid birth certificate. I was born in the state that I said I'm born in, and I'm above the age of 18. Similarly, for the college transcripts, that's great. You don't need to, I mean, there's a whole fake industry. That whole thing will collapse, with people who are doing a lot of scams. Okay, let's do one more because this is really interesting. I don't know if you all find this interesting, but I am finding this interesting. Yes.
I was thinking about banks using like transactions and also the impact of like people will like they wouldn't really need a lot of resources like from the banks and also when there would be auditing of those transactions, it's also going to be safe and there'll be less auditing to be done. So I think both has an impact, right? If they use like blockchain in the
Yes. Are you thinking of the auditing requirement for the banks alone?
yeah, and also like the banks ultimately will also have to hire maybe less people because the scan transaction can happen at any time. They don't really need to have people on the time 9 to 5 p.m. They can do it whenever, and it's gonna be safe.
Yeah.
So also the auditing aspect of it that they can rely on it and not have to do a lot of procedures on those transactions.
Because of the
Reliability of the data,
and the security.
Yeah, because
and
I think
knowing that.
auditors kind of face the issue of like information produced by entity wherein they have to do a lot of checks on it. So I feel like that would really help.
Yes.
Save time on both the aspects.
Absolutely. And that's a whole thing by itself, the effect on the auditing aspect of it. That's a great point. And of all the industries, I think the biggest changes will come to finance and banking from blockchain. That's just, of course, that's my opinion, but I do see that based on a lot of reading as well, that the banking industry is going to be affected a lot because if you think about it, banks are really an intermediary, isn't it? That's what they do. They provide the trust so that I can deal with you by offering you, my check, for example, or my credit card that's also going through that. So that role of the intermediary will be vastly reduced, may not be eliminated just yet, but it's going to make a big change in a lot of places. And the role of banks will become less and less obvious. There'll be more a back-end transaction kind of thing. That's my belief. I don't know if you think differently, but but that's what I think is going to happen to a lot of the banks. And by the way, for many of you who think that many of these advances will come maybe to a few places, I just want to share with you another, kind of interesting thing, whether you're, aware of it or not. But there is this leapfrog effect in a lot of the developing economies. And I see that, as I said, when I go to India, nearly always payments are made on what we call a uniform payment interface, just on your just on your cell phone. It is far more advanced than what is happening even in the US. That's because the technology has leapfrogged. It has bypassed things like credit cards. So people who never owned a credit card, who probably didn't have a banking until this came, have a direct way to do this payments now. And so I fully expect that this kind of changes in the banking industry will actually impact developing economies equally, if not to the same extent. This will be a big global change for many of them. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else think of any uses where you eliminate some of the intermediaries and what we call as the matchmaker economies? Yes. Hi. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. I think you told me.
I'm Connor.
Connor.
But I named this company after my friend Jared. Call it Jared Chain. So basically pharmaceutical drugs, they're not always tracked by like serial number. And I feel like this is the way to do it. So basically kind of how Jared and I came up with it,
Jared Chain?
Jared Chain. You trace the products under the Drug Supply Chain Security Act. Basically trying to combine cloud serialization workflows, permissioned blockchain ledger that creates a tamper-evident shared record of product movement and verification events. I think, AI, the things it can do, coming up Jared Chain.
So this would be a supply chain for pharmaceuticals?
Yes.
Okay.
Like it would help like small, like mid-size, like pharmaceutical manufacturers, like kind of that niche market. Me and him and AI, it's sky's the limit.
Yeah, you almost need the AI to monitor that too,
Yeah.
right? Okay, great. Is that your next business venture?
I
when
came
you
up with it
when you
like
grad-
now. I just like used AI and was like, come up with like, put some inputs into it and put his name into it and came up with the name. It's incredible what it can do.
So the name Jared Chain was given by
By AI. All this is by AI. I just like put in prompts. But it's
May I
incredible what
know
it can do.
what prompts did you put in? Because, I mean, I think you all know this quite well by now, but prompt is a big industry by itself, right? There are there are consultants who do prompts for ChatGPT. They coach you in how to do the best. So I just want to know, what prompts did you put in?
I just put in I'm going back. Give me an idea for a company that uses blockchain, and then gave me some ideas, and I said pharma.
Okay.
And then after that I said compliance serialization. And then it gave me this huge idea, and I said MVP scope, and then I was like, make me a sim, like a document of like what the business is, and it's incredible. You know, it just does my job for me.
Okay,
I don't need
so
to
all
be
you
there.
have to do is just go there and sell the idea, right? To pitch the idea to some investors. Yeah. Okay, great. So that includes some elements of the supply chain and provenance, basically tracking where that pharmaceutical came from and where it is on the supply chain.
Actually, I think it's actually a great idea. Like, I wish I would have thought of it, but you know, I'm not as smart as AI, so.
Well, I mean, you can still think of it and do it. AI will not do the job.
No, 100%. But like, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a. That's the problem. I'll have to think.
Okay. Okay, anything else? What do you think will happen to something like Airbnb? What does Airbnb do really? What do you think? And I don't want to hit just on Airbnb or Uber. What do you think they do? What is their value to society? Or how did they make money?
Matchmaking, being an
They do.
intermediary.
Claude, sorry?
Matchmaking between, like being an intermediary, like matchmaking homes with potential short-term stayers. Yeah.
They connect, right? They connect you. Yeah. And did you
Yeah.
have something else? So that's what they do, right? So do you think you need this matchmaker intermediaries on a blockchain, which can be decentralized and peer-to-peer? Anybody?
No.
Okay. And what will that world look like? Say you want to go take a vacation in Hawaii and you want to stay somewhere. So Airbnb, I mean, initially their idea was to harvest spare capacity so somebody else can use it, isn't it? They didn't want you to go and buy a property so that you can go and do Airbnb. That's how they sold it, spare capacity. I happen to be going from here to there, so I can give you a ride. That's Uber's concept, and that's spare capacity again. So what will the world look like if we don't have these intermediaries? Or let me rephrase that. Airbnb is a wealthy company, right? They have a lot of money. They made a lot of money. So if they are not there, what happens to all that?
You mean in a blockchain world?
In a blockchain world, yeah. In a blockchain world,
I guess they won't be able to make any more money because people can just join the network and just go ahead and for accommodation without using their service.
yeah. If you can imagine a world without that. So the primary value they provide is just that connection. And if I can think of the Web 3.0 that incorporates blockchain, all I need is a computer and I can check. I don't need somebody else creating that. So their entire amount of money that's mainly through either advertising or some amount of transaction fees is gone. And I suspect that we will be the beneficiaries. Anyone else think somebody else will get that? I think we'll all, just as consumers, be the beneficiaries of that. A lot of it with Facebook Marketplace too. isn't it? What does Facebook Marketplace do? It just provides you a hosting website where you can go and find things. And the whole purpose of many of these intermediaries, these matchmaking intermediaries, is so that they can give you the curated ads. I don't know about y'all, but I see a ton of ads for all kinds of things. Sometimes the guesses are right, sometimes they're wrong. But if I can eliminate that, of course, it makes a lot of industries go broke, go defunct. But like everything else, we'll probably be rearranging our lives so that we can get back into that. Okay, very good. No one has any other ideas or suggestion? Then we can move to the next. And I'm going to talk a little bit about one specific use case which I gave my TED talk on. Did anyone, not that you have to, so don't feel shy to say, oh, you did or didn't. Did anyone watch my TED talk? Because I think Dr. Martin had circulated it to you all. Okay, great. So nobody knows what I'm going to say, which is good, which is good for me to know. So I stopped my work in consulting and started taking a year break because this was an idea I really wanted to implement. And this is about creating barter using blockchain technology. What I feel is that we can revive the traditional barter exchanges. Everybody knows what barter is, or do I have to explain that? Do I have to mention what barter system is? It's just a swap between two people, right? Hey, you like my pencil or my pen, and I like your name tag, so we can agree to swap. And people were doing this traditionally. They exchange goats and chicken for agricultural produce and various other things. This was done all the time. But that fell off because we needed money to be a common medium of exchange. So for me, I came up with the idea of creating barter using tokenization. And I really thought about it because I know a lot of people who want to contribute some services. Maybe I, as an accountant, can give free tax service. And my husband, who's a physician, wants to do actually some help by giving, a few hours of his time. But we don't want to make that the main thing. We want to keep giving some contribution. So it's a fractional contribution. And how do we capture that so that the combined value of all this captured, of all these contributed services becomes a big entity enough to serve a community? And one way is to put it on blockchain. The other reason is to reward the people or give them something else in exchange for their services. Plus, it also can revive communities since they have more stake in their communities. So these are all the reasons why I came up with the idea of blockchain, putting barter on blockchain. My vision was that, say there is somebody who's a retired school teacher who is willing to give math tuition to students, and all that person wants is maybe once in a way somebody to help him with meal prep or take his mother to the doctor. So is there a way for us to have a direct exchange that does not involve constant cash transactions, especially as things change in the economy, we become more and more cash strapped? Say I lose my job. Yeah, sure, I don't have money, but I still have the ability to do some things. So why should I be really out on the streets or without food or anything else as long as I can contribute something? So this is just the motivation behind that. And I started a company, but for many legal and business reasons, I didn't want to use that name and the logo here, but I'm calling it Karma Exchange because the idea is to encourage people to come out and trade their services. So I'll help you out with something. You help me out with something, but it need not be a one-on-one. I don't have to get to know you personally, but I can have a big board, a notice board, a digital notice board where I share what I can do and what I want for myself. And we can get a token for that. So in other words, this is similar to creating an NFT, except that instead of an art, a piece of art, or a piece of music, I have maybe a spare room in my house that I'm willing to let someone stay and help me with something else, or a type of service that I create and get tokens from the system. So by putting it on blockchain, what it does is it allows me to trade with someone else completely not in my town or in my community. So you create a token. So this is how that might work. I have the ability to drive my neighbor for her doctor appointments. So I will do that. I get a token or two, whatever level of tokens we agree upon. I use those tokens the next time I want to travel somewhere in, say, Costa Rica, and someone is able to house me for a week for that. And that person wants to educate her son. So she signs up online to get some classes in, say, computer skills. And that person can be anywhere in the US or in Central America. And that person gets paid in tokens, and so on. So this would create a big chain, which I'm calling the barter chain, in order to make the world go around that way. I can help somebody with something that they want by teaching some essential life skills, maybe a language, and get something else from them shipped to me from anywhere in the world. So this will be a big ecosystem. And the way I'm launching it is we have created a small community in my town in Florida. And we are already creating a swap system. I mean, many of you have seen swap marketplaces. People exchange used goods and so on. This would have the similar idea, except that I don't have to have a one-for-one match. Maybe I want to swap my car, but all you have is a really nice, camping gear. They may not be equal. The only way to overcome this inequality is so that we can have tokens. And that way, I can give my car to you, get a whole bunch of tokens. That means you may have to go and do other things for that, or swap out, or a combination of swapping out some of your other used items and doing some of the service. Maybe you can teach something to somebody, mow their lawn, and still be able to accumulate tokens. Yes, you have a question.
How do you ensure trust? How do you ensure that the other party fulfills their obligation? Especially if there's like a lag in time regards to services provided.
Yeah. So that's why you get the tokens. So there are some problems with barter, right? One of the problems is that it has to be synchronous. So when I give you something, you give me something, so there's no trust. So the point of blockchain is to overcome that. In addition to the other problem is we call it the double coincidence of wants, which is you have to want what I am giving you, and I have to want what you're able to give me. So that, and let me use the Taylor Swift example again. So if I want to give that Taylor Swift tickets, and I say, hey, I want you to carpool for my kids for the next 6 months, we have to both meet there. Maybe, you don't want that ticket or something else. You don't want that at all. So we exchange tokens at that point. So you pay me in the tokens in that karma exchange. You only pay me in tokens, which is similar to cash, but it's not cash because you can earn it by doing something else anywhere. So it's a chain because it's not a two-person exchange, but it goes multilaterally to several people. So I can file your taxes for you. You teach somebody else something else, a life skill, maybe swimming, or coach somebody in something. And that person will mow someone else's lawn, and that person will babysit someone else, or maybe design a website for their company, and so on. So that's just the whole big picture.
Next question, scalability. Like, how would you handle this when
Yeah. So it is automatically scalable as long as there are enough people. What makes it for, and that's one of the things I'm working on. I want enough people, but in order to go there, I mean, it's like you learn if you start any business. In order to get enough people, what we call the network effect, that's the network effect is, unless you have a lot of people, the whole thing is not structured to be successful because you don't have enough choices. You don't have enough things to choose from. But for me to implement such a large system, I need a lot of funding. So I'm creating a pilot project. I have a pilot project now starting up now, which will be only for a limited amount of things where we're doing some swapping, of services and some amount of goods. Like one of us will bring a meal on Tuesday nights and then somebody gets fed. Somebody doesn't go hungry in the community on Tuesday nights at least. And then they will do something else. Like they come to the community center and they offer some of their services. And the way to overcome the other part of your question was about the trust. Yeah, you don't need the trust again because this is a trustless system. Since you get paid immediately in the tokens that is created within that, system. And also, this will be a permission blockchain. Because the thing that I'm really scared of more than anything else is going the way of Silk Road. I don't want anybody getting on that and soliciting and creating services that are either with underage, minors, illegal, unsavory, immoral, you name it. There are far more bad things that can happen than only good things. So I want to be careful with that and the legal implications, which is why I'm not able to put like a logo, open up a website and everything. I got a little bit stuck in that process, but that's natural. That's going to happen. So that was my idea of one of the use cases for using blockchain. Yes.
Valuation. So how do you?
Yep. Great question.
A haircut versus maybe somebody helping me.
That's a great question. So in barter, it was always negotiated. And that's exactly how I intend that this should happen. Of course, to begin with, since it's experimental, I don't know anyone who's doing this, actually. There is one called Simbi, I think, but they're really very restricted and limited. And I haven't seen blockchain barter pretty much anywhere else. So one of the ways to value is to negotiate. So do I need a haircut really desperately today? Then I will negotiate with you and pay a higher price. One of the far out examples I have seen of both barter and blockchain and AI is somebody had proposed, and this is not my idea, somebody had proposed that when we eventually have smart cars on the road that just talk to each other and they negotiate and they go, say I'm in a great hurry because I'm going to the airport, while you are just taking a leisure drive. One of you is just taking a leisure drive around town. You're looking for what are the new homes in town or something like that. So can my smart car talk to your smart car and offer to you to pay a few more tokens so that you let me go fast and first? And you're happy because you got something. So we have this exchange where at that moment in time, I was able to negotiate because time was much more precious to me, but it wasn't to you in that moment in time, waiting there. That's just a far out example, but that's how the negotiation can be done through smart contracts too. But that's not my plan just yet, because I'm really planning this for sort of uplifting certain communities. And I just felt a sense of urgency, honestly, after reading a lot more about AI and the displacement it will bring and a lot of, job losses that I've seen happen. So I felt at a minimum, people want to do things. Nobody wants to just, not do anything or not contribute. So you always have something you can contribute and you can do this. Yeah.
I know you said this is like, it helps for like community-based alternative economies. But for this, there has to be like a certain level of like technology within the like technological knowledge that for them to be able to do this. So this would only work at certain, like I would guess, more middle class communities than lower income communities that don't have access
That's
to
a very good
more
question.
knowledge on.
Yes. No, I really appreciate this question. That's a great question. And that's the reason I sort of touched upon this concept of leapfrog technology. Because there are communities where already blockchain is being used. And I know for a fact that there are at least two that I can just give you a quick example of. And this is done through the United Nations Development Program, where they're implementing both AI and blockchain for social good. One of them is to make payments to women in Afghanistan through blockchain, because that's the most secure way to give money to them in a way that they know it cannot be siphoned off by some other random group, malintentions and all that. So they're able to make those payments. The other one is in West Africa, where they're doing fundraising by using blockchain. Again, because there is a big concern about whether it goes to the right people, they're using blockchain already for that. And yeah, sure, you do need a computer at this point. It isn't an app that goes on your phone. But the second the technology gets to the point where it becomes something on your phone, everybody can use it. And that's the advantage. Like I said, I've seen in India, people who are, basically even domestic workers are able to use that payment. All they do is just look at the amount, swipe and pay. And there's a QR code. They just scan in. So you can be barely literate and you can still do that. So that is the hope. Do I know for sure? No, but this is something that I'm just thinking of as great potential, because I think it will change the landscape. Think of it once you get the technology down to being an app on the phone. Yeah, it's a lot to log in and do it. Okay, any other questions? All right. Yeah, I just want to share that with you, but if you have a few minutes, it's exactly 15 minutes, please do go and watch my TED Talk that I gave in November. And it probably will be clearer because I made a presentation exclusively on using the barter chain. And by the way, in addition to this hub, I'm also talking to, there's a university professor who also wrote a paper, coincidentally. I didn't see his first, but he's interested in developing the technology side of this. So there are people working on making, there are several swap groups in Australia, New Zealand, UK, who are using technology that's, they've either considered blockchain or something similar in order to get, or a very tightly permission restricted blockchain in order to do the same thing. Because otherwise to find that one-on-one swap is difficult. So they're able to do that. And by the way, going back to the energy question, you have to consider the effect on the environment, both in terms of energy consumption and what a swap economy will do. Because what you may be putting into the landfill may now be given to somebody who's, has more use for it. So you don't need, so the barrier to us really swapping things directly is because I don't know you exist and you want what I have. And now I can find it by using the blockchain. Another example I used in my talk, which I think is still, kind of valid, is why do we need so many lawnmowers on every street? Can we not have communal lawnmowers? Which again, if we use blockchain technology and we have a way of, crediting each other with tokens, say I use it every day, I'll be one person who has to pay more tokens for it. But we can just reduce the footprint of things in general, useful things, by being able to share. And this can be done by industries who can have shared resources when there is far more trust and credibility in that system. And these are we are now just in the realm of ideas. Not every one of these has been done. Some of them have been tested, but these are the ideas that will take us into the future and the applications for the blockchain. Okay, maybe some of you touched on this as well, but coming to the impact, since we are accountants, on accounting and auditing. So blockchain, as we talked about, is a ledger, right? It's really, at its core, it's really a ledger where we keep track of things. So it's often referred to as triple entry because you have the debits and the credit, and then the entry into the blockchain, into the blockchain ledger. And that's just terminology. But the implication for this is that because this is so safe and this is an immutable record, that's important. So if you are in the triple entry using blockchain, people can place more reliability on that kind of data. One of the other impacts is you have exponentially higher level of automation of everything. For example, with the smart contracts. Once you have a smart contract, it's self-executing. One of the examples that I mentioned is, and it's already happening, is with royalty payments. So you don't have to track. You don't need a spreadsheet. If any of you has worked in a pharmaceutical or any company like that, I was with Pfizer for some time as a consultant. So they have lots of spreadsheets and a department that tracks royalties. Some they pay, some they get, and so on. And they had all this that they were tracking manually. Imagine if all this was put on blockchain and there were smart contracts. So the second somebody sells the drug through Publix or CVS or anything, you're going to get the royalty for that immediately. Same thing with the music industry. So any of these things that have the capability of automation and high volume will be done immediately with much greater efficiency and much less operating cost. So there are many, many ways in which they can have the automation. For example, reconciliation. I think some of you did work in accounting field, right? So I'm guessing since you're still students, one of your big tasks was to reconcile something. Did anyone do reconciliations, bank reconciliations, ledger? Yeah. If you did any work at all, you did reconciliations. You don't need reconciliations if you're on blockchain. Zero. I mean, almost zero, because you will have to maybe reconcile some things to a real life event, but much less than that. You won't need to compare a journal to a ledger and see if they matched up and what happened with all that. That's not going to be important. Yeah.
So should we see blockchain as a threat?
Good question. But I'm going to ask you to answer it. What do you think? And why don't we open that up to others too?
I think as a threat.
You think of it as a threat? Okay.
Yeah, because of course there's been technology that is coming through the years. But I just think this is not just a change in nature, change in kind. I think the amount of jobs that could be wiped out.
So you're thinking of it as a threat from the jobs point of view?
Yeah, from the jobs point.
Okay. Like AI?
Yeah, like AI.
Okay. Who else agrees with that? The threat? Headwind or tailwind? Yeah. You have your hand
I
up?
think it could be a threat specifically to like certain countries, like if their currency is maybe not, maybe it's fluctuates relative to the US dollar or like the pound, and maybe they want something that's more stable. And maybe they want, or maybe their currency is super unpredictable, so maybe they want blockchain. That's where I could see it, but I don't know. It's just
You mean replace the currency with
replace the currency of blockchain, like in certain countries. I feel like that could happen. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, the cryptocurrency itself. By the way, again, it's being adopted a lot in many of the, I think it's either Estonia or Lithuania that's adopted cryptocurrency quite extensively.
Yeah.
So there are countries, and you wouldn't think, it would be surprising when you hear about who's adopting what part of blockchain, and that's interesting to see. That's a kind of leapfrog effect too, because those under more threat with the traditional systems, for whom the systems that we have in place haven't worked, are more likely to be early adopters of something to do with blockchain.
Especially like if there's like a regime change or something,
Yeah.
that, I mean, that could be huge. That could be a probably a whole market for that we don't even know about.
Sure, yeah. No, that's true. And that would be one option to go into currency that is like cryptocurrency, which would kind of sidestep the process of manipulating locally. That's where it comes from, right? You can't manipulate your own currency, but if you have cryptocurrency, it has a more global way to look at it. Okay.
I think Connor's point, you want to create a stable system of your currency. That's not the purpose of using blockchain. Blockchain cannot make your currency stable.
Well, it's more stable from the perspective if like you could, rather than having like the FX like rate fluctuate.
Think about
between different
Iran.
countries, but
Think about Iran. Doesn't matter Iran go on blockchain or not.
right.
Their currency is going to be devalued to zero.
I thought he meant that if you have cryptocurrency instead of Iranian money, then you're safer.
Like
If
think
you
of
had
like
digital-
if
Safer
Venezuela,
versus your currency fluctuation is
Yeah, that
two
won't be
different
done.
concepts.
like
you-
what if like a Venezuela, like all the problems they've had, and like they switch over to like blockchain, they become more universal. I don't know. There could be a market for that.
No, I just
Well,
want
come on,
to
Iran.
emphasize the key differences between your currency is safe versus your currency fluctuation is driven by your fundamental economy. Okay, it's a supply and demand.
I see what you're saying.
Okay, so that you cannot change fundamentally through the technology, but transaction safeness, how safe it is, it could. So, but I just want to clarify on that, so we don't get.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So yeah, cryptocurrency will fluctuate by its nature. So it's not about the fluctuation
Okay.
itself. Right? Yeah, that's what you want to say? Yeah.
Right, there's a lot to learn about the currency, why certain currency has a value, like a Bitcoin, why Bitcoin fluctuate a lot, because they're not backed by fundamental assets. It's all by faith, right? We
And supply
agree
and
on
demand.
value. So there's a lot about that. If you're interested, the Nobel Prize winner, Jim Fama, he's the professor at Chicago, University of Chicago. He talked about the cryptocurrencies, in particular about Bitcoin, why it fluctuates a lot. In his belief, Bitcoin can be worth zero, So, but anyhow, so Renima, I think we're going to hit.
Yeah, we are
about the
almost at time.
Uh-huh.
Okay, great. So audit impact, I think I'll just touch upon this, and this is really I'm at the end. Yep, we are almost at the end. So we talked about the automation, what the triple entry accounting is, the immutable ledger, and audit impact. I think somebody here mentioned it, right? Maybe, was it you, Pratna? Talked about audit impact. So if any of you go into the audit profession, you'll be doing things like reconciliation and a lot of confirmations. Think about confirmations. If everything is on the blockchain, it's already automatically verified. Say I claim that I sold so many trucks and it's all on the blockchain, then as an auditor, all you need to do is have permission to check that. And then automatically this should be the revenue. There's no more analytics that you have to do around all of those. And I know we're getting close to the time, but I'm just going to leave it open for another minute or two. We have 5 more minutes, right? So anyone wants to contribute to that, say anything more about the impact on accounting or auditing? Any of you who's been a first-year auditor at either an industry or a firm or something?
I think to make auditing more effective.
I just wanted to maybe focus on what Arthur was saying, that there could be threats to the traditional accounting. But my feeling is that the threat is to lower levels of the accounting, like the data inputting and
yes,
basically mundane tasks. But like you're saying, when you're doing auditing, obviously you would have to do it, and I don't think blockchain will be able to do that. It has to have human intervention for the auditing.
I fully agree. So yes, some of those threats are more from AI, robotics, automation than from blockchain itself. But yes, you do need human intervention, but the human intervention will be doing something else. Like maybe looking at the system of controls, maybe looking at their governance structures and many other things. Not necessarily the transaction or the numbers that go into it, but how it is looking at the processes and the underlying systems that create those transactions. That might be more the relevance that will be focused. And yes, we touched upon some negative aspects as well. And this is definitely a big thing. When you move into robotics, automation, blockchain, any of those technologies, there is a problem. And for me, that's why I started thinking about, can there be also an upside? Can there be a good side? But that's a philosophical question of whether it affects any of us only negatively or also positively. Is there good and bad? And even if there is bad, so what can we do about it? That's going to be a big philosophical question for the future, which most of you young people will have to deal with over the next several decades. But let me stop here. And is there anything else you want to add? Anything else to?
I don't have anything to add. I want to really sincerely thank Purnima for giving us this wonderful lecture. Hopefully, by the time now, you all have at least the basic understanding of what blockchain is, how it works. And hopefully that can give you the opportunity in the future to reach out to these, you become native to blockchain, right? Will not feel like this is an alien to me. So that's kind of the purpose of today's class. I also want to share Purnima's email address, her contact.
Sure.
So in the future, any of you want to reach out to her, please feel free to do so. I'm sure Purnima is very happy.
Welcome. Yes, I'm welcoming. As I said, because this is an evolving field and I'm learning a lot more. I often learn from, talking to people, making presentations, as I did today, I'm sure. When I go back and think through, there'll be many more things that, I have learned from all of you. So please feel free to reach out anytime. I'm on LinkedIn. Just find me on LinkedIn.
Okay,
great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for paying attention, and all of you were great participants. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Great.
So I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop this. And then see you, Cloud.
Oh, yeah, there's another. Bye, Cloud.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll see you next week. Cloud.
Okay.